So as you know, we had this 2-week summer institute on critical anti-Semitism studies, and we looked at contemporary anti-Semitism from various perspectives. And one issue that we dealt with was the funding or the use of soft power by the Muslim Brotherhood. And what we've been documenting is that the Muslim Brotherhood, first through the Saudi Arabians and now mostly through Qatar and to some extent Turkey, has been using soft power to fund European and North American universities mainly in order to sort of influence the curriculum, the courses, the education at our best universities in the Western world. So we did a project, for example, we started this about 8 years ago, and through our research we worked with a forensic accountant and an expert on the Muslim Brotherhood, and we found over $3 billion in illegal money going to American universities. So under American law, universities have to report on an annual basis to the IRS and to the Department of Education funds that exceed $250,000. So money coming from foreign entities over $250,000, the university is obligated to report it to the federal government. The origin of this law comes out of the Nazi period. So some Americans in the 1940s were concerned about the rise of fascism and Nazism in the United States. So they passed a law to keep track of foreign funding coming to the United States, to nonprofit organizations, including universities. So that's where the origin of the law is. So in our research with meager resources, we found $3 billion in illegal money. I presented my work to people in the United States, in Washington, D.C., and people were concerned, and they organized a summit in 2019 where we presented our research to about 100 top civil servants, including the Secretary of State, the Director of the FBI and Homeland Security, the Attorney General, and top civil servants. And our research, I think, obviously hit a note in this presentation, because after we presented, a few weeks later, the federal government in 2019 announced a federal investigation into the illegal funding or the use of soft power by foreign entities in the United States. In a short period of time, in less than 12 months, the federal investigation discovered over $18 billion in undocumented money coming into to American universities, mainly from the Muslim Brotherhood. And as you know, the Muslim Brotherhood is a fusion, it's a reactionary social movement, started in Egypt about 100 years ago. And it's a fusion of a very narrow understanding of Islam combined with European anti-Semitism, the use of the protocols of the Elders of Zion, and it fuses European anti-Semitism and even Nazism with Islam. So the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamism, with a ISM, or political Islam, is not Islam, and I'm not referring to the religion of Islam or to Muslims, but a reactionary social movement that started 100 years ago in Cairo, in Egypt, as a reaction to British colonialism, and it spread over the last century to various parts of the world. It's the root of political Islam, it's the root of ISIS or Daesh, it's the root of Hamas. It's even in the Shiite world, it's really the ideological foundation of the Iranian revolutionary regime. So even in the Shiite Islam, despite the Sunni Shiite divide, this philosophy or ideology is has gained traction. And this is the ideology that the funding is connected to. So I think one manifestation of this is the shifting discourse in the best universities in Europe, in the best universities in North America, when it comes to Jews, Israel, and Zionism. And you can sort of step back from this complex issue of contemporary anti-Semitism, and I would say just look at it in a simple way. In less than 2 generations ago, 70 years ago, Jews were hunted and literally exterminated in one of the greatest crimes in the history of humanity, the Holocaust. And in Nazi-occupied Europe, Jews were perceived as a different race, as Semitic or not white, and that the Jews were a poison to the purity of the white Aryan race. And because of this vulgar anti-Semitism of Nazism and of the protocols, Jews were hunted and exterminated, and it resulted in over 6 million Jews being killed. Elie Wiesel always argued that the Holocaust did not begin with the railroad tracks and the crematoriums or the concentration camps. It began with words and ideas. And the words and ideas of the Muslim Brotherhood is similar to the Nazis, and they justified the exclusion of Jews from Europe, and it culminates in the Holocaust. So Jews were exterminated for not being white, according to European Nazism and anti-Semitism. Fast forward less than 2 generations later, and Jews, among progressive people, in universities, some of the best universities, in Middle East studies, in philosophy, in the social sciences, Jews are increasingly portrayed as white. And it's not white, welcome to the club, and we're so sorry for what happened a generation or 2 ago, and you're welcome. No. These clowns who pass as scholars and intellectuals and philosophers define the Jew as white and the embodiment of racists, of colonialists, and of apartheid supporters. So what European, American intellectuals have done is to take the Jew and treat them like the garbage can of their history, of the history of colonialism, of racism, and of anti-Semitism, and have placed it on the Jew. So we, the Jewish people, are now labeled as white supremacists, colonialists, and apartheid supporters, despite the fact that not very long ago, historically, Jews were the brunt, the quintessential brunt of racist, anti-Semitic philosophy, theology, and politics. And this shifting discourse, when it comes to the Jew, when it comes to Israel as an apartheid state, which is being taught increasingly in universities, can be traced directly, and this is what our research is doing, using discourse analysis, machine learning, and artificial intelligence, looking at the algorithms of how journals and course syllabi have shifted when it comes to portraying Jewish people, Israel, and Zionism, from Jews as being the victims of anti-Semitism to the racist. The Muslim Brotherhood, using Qatar as a state, this is a state funding universities in Oxford, Cambridge, the Sorbonne, the Ivy Leagues in the United States, and well beyond, a state with the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood funding university education and shifting the discourse to a dangerous form of anti-Semitism and anti-democratic philosophy.